Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. This is my post-launch SimCity experience. Isn't it wonderful? A queue for a traditionally single-player game. How many times has that been in the last few months? Oh yeah, several games have done this, but this is possibly the most ridiculous example. So welcome to the equivalent of Error 37 for SimCity. This is a PSA to let you know that this actually exists. This is something that you should take into consideration before attempting to buy this game. During the WTF Viz of SimCity, we expressed a great concern that this thing could potentially happen, and explained some of the potential pitfalls of always-on DRM. One of those pitfalls was, I wonder what's going to happen on launch day. We talked a little bit, and this has been covered by other sites as well, that the experience that we got in the press beta was not necessarily representative of what you would get in the final product as a general consumer. The reason being, of course, is that there were barely any press on the server, and clearly the game could handle about 60 or so people without too much of a problem. What it cannot handle, it would appear, is the number of people that actually wish to play the game on day one. It's interesting, really, when you think about it, because they're supposed to be using things like pre-orders to be able to gauge this kind of thing, and to be appropriately prepared for this kind of problem coming their way, this capacity issue. Were they prepared? No. And this, I might add, is after they decided to stagger the release of the game over a course of a number of hours in order to prevent this from happening to begin with. We had huge numbers of reports. There was a 200-page thread on the EA support forum claiming that the game had not unlocked for people that it should have unlocked for. Bear in mind, of course, that for some inexplicable reason, EA and many other companies still go by the notion that there are oceans on the internet, meaning that there are certain dates at which games are released in certain countries. In Europe and the UK, and I believe Australia as well, you're going to be waiting until the 7th or the 8th of March in order to be able to play this game. The standard release date for US-based titles is Tuesday. However, we're not talking about people that shouldn't have had access to the game to begin with, we're talking about people that actually pre-ordered the bloody game. Just to make matters worse, it would appear, some people that pre-ordered the digital deluxe edition were having problems actually running their game, whereas people that bought the digital deluxe edition right then and there were able to get into the game immediately. One might almost say, if one was a particularly cynical and skeptical kind of person with a slight hint of heady paranoia, that this was a deliberate strategy to sell more copies of the game to very impatient people. Indeed, there are many reports of people buying a second copy of the game just so they could play it because their pre-order was not unlocking, whereas immediate purchasers were. But that's, of course, assuming that you were to believe such things. It is a conspiracy theory, and little more than that. There's no proof of it, but, well, let's be honest, a lot of people wouldn't put it past EA, would they not? Now, to make matters worse, it is possible to play the game on other servers if you so desire, although what I discovered when doing this was that my cities did not in fact transfer from server to server. The save files that are in the cloud only apply to very specific regional servers, and while you can play on other servers, you will not be able to transfer your existing city over. This means that if you wish to jump on another server to play because your server for some reason has a 30-minute bloody queue in order to actually get into the game, then you are fresh out of luck if you wish to play the city that you just started a couple of hours ago. Wonderful. The problem, I suppose, with assessing games like this, anything that's always on and allows for reviewers to get in prior to that and assess the game, is that we will never be able to give you a proper assessment because we have no idea what the launch day conditions are actually going to be. This is a fairly unique problem. It used to apply really only to MMOs, and even then, most people weren't releasing day one reviews of MMOs for obvious reasons. They're so huge, you can't really get that full experience. You gotta play them for weeks before you can really get an idea of where the game's going. This is a fairly unique problem for anyone whose job it is to assess, criticize, and analyze games in order to basically have you as the consumer's back and make sure that you don't get screwed over by poor business practice or just lousy products. This is not something that I feel we're used to handling, and indeed, I am not the only one that believes this. We had an article on Penny Arcade yesterday that said, please do not necessarily trust our review of SimCity because we cannot, under any circumstances, replicate the conditions that you as a consumer will be getting on launch or at any point around launch. We have no idea how stable it's going to be. We have no idea if there's going to be lag issues, there's going to be queues, server downtime. We have no idea how regular the server downtime is, or indeed what could happen to your cloud-saved files in certain circumstances if problems were to occur with the servers. And it would appear, of course, that the first fear has been confirmed, that we are running into queues. So that's a little public service announcement to let you know what's currently going on with SimCity. My advice, of course, would be to hold off very much upon purchase of this game until we are sure that the queue problems will not be a persistent issue and we are sure that the servers are rock solid. And that's, of course, assuming that you even want to buy it, having seen the potential effects that this always-on DRM and so-called always-connected multiplayer system put into play for a game that was very much traditionally something that you could play with the internet turned off and under any circumstances for hours at a time without any problems at all. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only DRM. I'll see you next time.